Mercury, Hermes to me, messenger of God Almighty.
What need have we of a flitting, flickering breeze of a girlish boy to attend and deliver those messages, too rich and ephemeral for mortal ears to hear?
That's just it. The flit, flit, flit of one whose work will never be quit. For the tongues change as the days change, so too the tools and the spools of yarn to tie a bow around a fable. Let us be able, the mind must be watched. For what is Mercury if not mind? How do you think? What mechanics run your mental miasma? What mind-forged manacles hold our new century in shackles? Flit, flit. It is oh so quick. Mercurius, he or she, the androgyne, darts to and fro. It sets the nerves on edge. It is our very nervous system incarnate. The brave little one, dancing so close to our father's sun, never straying too far. Give, 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 take, 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 the lord of copper and all coinage, tithing and conniving, the neutrality tinged with hue of fiendy foes, or the mellow genius. Marvellous gift the mind is, to discern, interpret, calculate, litigate and placate. And then those glamorous fools who use it for music and perceiving the divine, who gift it back as sweetly as songbirds, who are piecing it all together through lyric and strong words, tricky trap of universal hilarity, mirroring, gleeful, the pitfalls of humanity, human errors, as we stumble and learn, taking turns to be humble and bumble through digital dilemmas of the soul, tracking this route towards whole, as the heart yearns, Mercury unfurling life as a fern, seeing patterns, pretty patterns, lighting lanterns as it flits through the details loosely harnessed, and on course this worthy servant wants no more nor less than to play, investigate, and convey. Come with me and serve yourself heartily.
Hello there, welcome back to the Ineffableelse. Welcome to a new video in the series about Mercury, and welcome to possibly one of my most important videos. This is because we'll be exploring my pivotal point of my chart, which is Mercury in Scorpio. But this will also apply to you if you have Mercury in the 8th house, or if Mercury is conjunct with Pluto. So, where to begin with this when it's something so pervasive, so intense, and whilst the previous few incarnations of Mercury have been quite easy for me to talk about and explore, this is only easy because it's my personal experience. It's not particularly easy placement to have. None of the Scorpio ones generally are. So I have both Mercury conjunct Pluto, and I have Mercury in Scorpio. And I have it in the 3rd house. So it's this kind of marrying of a Virgo, Gemini, Mercurial, mental type quality, combined with the deep, sexual, powerful, profound, transformational, and slightly unpalatable qualities found within the 8th house, within Pluto as an archetype, and Scorpio. How does Mercury function? Well, first of all, I would suggest looking at the introduction to Mercury so you get more of an understanding of it in general. And then let's dive right in to how it expresses itself, as it is something so deep, penetrating and fixed. It's fixed water. And the mind is air. It's floating. It's ethereal. This is profound and wanting to take you down. And it can sometimes feel like a nemesis. It can feel like something within your mind that is just totally fixated, totally obsessed, totally compulsive. And it's very difficult to break the habit. This is fixed energy, meaning it's not so much, it's an illusion that it's not changing, but it doesn't feel like it's changing. There's a sort of stuckness. So there can be an attachment to certain ideals, as this is to do with the mind. But there can also, as Scorpio has a deeper understanding of things, there can be an attachment to the darker side of life and the darker side of your history and your personal narrative, your personal story, which, whilst it exists potentially within your body and within your current behavior patterns and ways of being, it doesn't exist in reality. Your past doesn't exist. The people, they no longer exist, especially if they're out of your life. And even if they are in your life, they don't exist in the same form that they were in when you were first experiencing them many, many years ago. So there's a few reality checks that this placement needs to go through in understanding the transitory nature of reality, that things are not so stuck as they seem, and a pill of optimism, a kind of shot of optimism needs to be made, because whilst this is can be extremely dragging you down into a sort of downward spiral of rumination and that kind of thinking, it is also your gift. With any challenging placement, this is your gift to show people how to use the mind to be able to see things, deep things, heavy things, scary things, things which are ordinarily shunned and I don't want to look at that, that's and actually be able to turn over those mossy rocks and see the things crawling underneath and to explore them. Because it's in the mind, it's actually quite a disparity between the deep sort of sexual, sensual nature of Scorpio, because it's up here, it's all mental. So it's being able to use the mind to address something very deep and profound, whilst the mind knows itself to be a tool. Big issue here is the mind has this big, heavy, dense and deep cosmic patterning, which is expressed through Pluto, but it can sometimes see itself as being on that deep level, when really this is for analysis, this is for seeing things laid out objectively and drawing conclusions. So watch the flavour of your conclusions. How much are they influenced by a pre-existing condition or belief? And it can be quite pessimistic with this placement. How is your Scorpio interacting with your chart? In my case, you can see really by which house it's sitting in. And in my case, it's sitting in the 3rd house. So you might think it would express itself in a more Gemini sense. But my chart ruler, my ascendant, is Virgo. So sometimes it can be very, very wanting to analyze objectively and expressing itself in that way. So in which way is it combining within your chart to be expressed? And if it's coming through in a Gemini way, there can be a big thing of being able to dish it out, but not being able to take it, not being able to take the joke or even understand. You can speak before you've felt. And because you can see things on such a deep level, there's a really good place for sort of dark humour and satire, and laughing at the expense of society, at the bigger schemes at play, and really finding that it's like, how do you manage to laugh at that? That's so dark, but that dark humour is part of that cosmic giggle of the life. And it's nice when Gemini is dancing with Scorpio in this way, but there can be a coldness and a abruptness. So try warming that up and bringing in the heart to this placement. Likewise with Virgo, it can be very dry, and it can dry out this kind of Scorpio squishiness. They don't communicate so well in a natural zodiac, Virgo and Scorpio. So to allow these two things to come together is, yes, it's your challenge, but it's a beautiful gift to unravel. Any time a strange pairing takes place, you may see something popping up saying that if you are this sign, you can't possibly have a relationship with this sign, when the reality is all archetypes are constantly interacting with each other. That's the nature of the news, of the daily news, when different things happen, either in the climate, things colliding together, too much air, too much fire, too much water, too much earth, all these things in a natural sense, but also in an energetic sense, in terms of politics, in terms of more non-personal collective planets. When Saturn and Uranus are coming into squares, you see all these different combinations bring themselves out in their day-to-day expression. And I'm noticing it's also easier to talk about the first half of the zodiac when it comes to Mercury, because it's a more simple expression. But here you are moving into something much more concerned with the collective, but it's your family collective, it's your relationship collection, it's the people you've collected and kept within your mind. And they can be really odd, the people that you tend to hold on to. And there's a reluctancy sometimes for spring cleaning, and almost some sort of idea that everybody deserves a place within your consciousness. And that's not really true, because if you are to give yourself fully and wholeheartedly to this world, it needs to be from a clear place. And even if you maybe have an obsession with helping someone from the past, that person will not be helped by a ruminating type of mind. It needs to be a clear mind. There's also definitely potential for manipulation and because you have a extremely wide view of what's happening, largely because you're just not scared of seeing the darkness. Depending which stage of your sort of evolution of your consciousness you're in, maybe you are very scared because there's an inner knowing that if I turn over that stone, I'm going to be shown all of this stuff, which and there won't be any glossy. It's exiting the matrix. It's very, very difficult for someone such as yourself to be ingrained in the matrix and really absorbed by it, because it's very transparent, very easy to see through. And that's infuriating where Mercury is concerned, because Mercury does like systems that work and you can see all the flaws in the systems. So don't let it get you down. Don't let the depression that you will naturally lean towards cloud your judgment. Try and just take a step back from whatever is happening within that consciousness and just allow it to pass through. Sort of see yourself as a vehicle for cleaning away a lot of this energy. And then on the other side, you realize you don't actually need to experience it. It's just there in the ether, floating along, and you're being relayed a lot of facts of the universe that are fairly dark, but how on earth are we supposed to overcome them unless we see them and draw attention to them? You could be someone in the room who, without even saying anything, people feel uncomfortable because your spidey senses are so evident, especially with it's a very penetrating mind. It's that fixed nature of the mind. It can zoom right in on something and almost like fishing into a still pool, it just drops down, and it's how low are you going to go? How many layers of the onion are you going to peel back? It's very investigating. And if you look at the human design aspect of this is the investigator. This is the investigating martyr. This is zooming right in and not being at all afraid of what you see there, because you are merely the conduit to access this information. And like an investigative journalist, you are not supposed to be partial in one way or another. So if we think of it as a trajectory moving from something like Libra, which is coming to that place of understanding the balance of the universe and how to work within duality, then we get into a Scorpio archetype, and it's just very happy to die to yourself, happy to die to your whichever identities you may have had wash over you. All of the things that I talk about in the introduction to Mercury video you transcend them, you overcome them, the idea that you are a mother or a nurse or a banker or a bricklayer or this race or that race or this gender or this sexual identity or with this skill or that skill. It all dissolves away into pure human pure human here now. And there is a sort of sacred depression that can come realizing that there is no point and there is no meaning to anything other than what we ascribe it. What is astrology if not that? But then there's a deeper level under that, and I hope you don't stay in that state for too long, which is nothing means anything. It's having exactly the same realization, but with a different mindset that just frees you of any of these feelings of obligation, frees you of any of these ideas about what a good person is, and you just start moving from a place inside which is your conscience. And the conscience is the deeper layer of the mind, which is this knowing. It's very quiet. It's not going to be screaming at you. And it's just there, and it just tells you what's a loving or unloving behavior to engage in or discussion to take up. And life becomes very, very smooth. It's funny how in the placement which seems on the surface to be a very difficult one, a very heavy head, can end up being the lightest. But this is always the case with any Scorpio signs, and it is always the Scorpio videos that receive the most views, because the Scorpio types are the most likely to dive down and investigate themselves, investigate their consciousness, and ask questions about, why am I like this? Why is life so hard? And it can't delude itself, and that actually leads towards a dark night of the soul, which is crossing a threshold into something really, rather than living in a nice, cozy, comfy, happy playroom, you move into, it's like a slingshot, and you move into the mansion and out into the grounds, and then you realize you have a whole world inside to explore. And outside, just little things that you may have a mental limitation about because it would make you doubt your comfort. This kind of liberty that you grant yourself on the other side of depression, on the other side of a heaviness, allows you to go anywhere, be anyone, see anything, and really see. You start to see things with open eyes. Yes, you see the darkness, but you finally are able to see the light. And it's a doorway. This is a gateway, this placement, and it is a gift. It's definitely going to be a concern with deep interpersonal, sexual, romantic relationships, including looking at those of your parents and looking at those of your ancestors and looking at those of the dead, going into death and questioning that, and what does it mean, and how can I die every day? I just feel like there are so many souls out there who are just almost there, and then they will take their own life, and there's just something on the other side. There was a breakthrough just waiting, but we have this will that can get out of hand and take us down really, really dark paths. So I'm really hopeful that can I say that when you're already watching this? I'm hopeful that you're watching this. If it's meant for you, if this news was meant to hit home and it's reaching the ears of someone who has this placement, because it can be an extremely lonely place to be when you're able to see and feel and understand, and really understand very, very deeply what's going on behind the smiles and the waves and the nice behavior, or even the seeing the darkness behind the sweetness, and then seeing the kind of sweetness that can be hidden away inside of suffering. And it's a breaking down and the dissolution of duality. And this is something that, with the world of entering non-binary and this kind of language, it can be a confusion with the actual breaking down of duality in terms of understanding the lack of need to identify with anything and just to be. And certain truths are self-evident and others are open to interpretation. But this will give you that level of discernment to be able to trust your mind as a tool. If you look at other Scorpio placements, they're very ruled by emotion and very hurt, very wounded. There can be a lot of wounding around your intellect, a lot of wounding around people being offended by the things that you've been able to observe, and making a peace with that and understanding not everybody's coming from this, not everybody's able to hold this flaming water that you have. It's burning, it's boiling. And also the coldness and the directness with which you can access these truths about any given situation. And this really includes addiction, and seeing the deeper theme of addiction as a true desire for connection with God, with the universe, with our fellow human being. What else are we having sex for other than this intense desire to unify? And that can be actually very disgusting and very triggering and very intense and overwhelming. And being okay with the trigger is really what it's like to have a Mercury in such a heavy place. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about if you have this placement, and hopefully this will help bring a bit of comprehension to those who don't have this as well, to understand why we think so much. Wow. Very important. Final note, get good sleep. Really, quality of sleep. Set your boundaries, get the eye mask. If people are making noise while you're sleeping, tell them so. Like, don't let anything get in the way of your circadian rhythms. It's very important that you enjoy and make the most of our natural rhythm of the universe, because anything else will just feel very, very jarring and wrong. So please see ineffableelse.com if you'd like to have a reading with me, and write in the comments how you feel about this. I'd love to have some soul family with this placement. Thank you so much. Take care.